Welcome. My name is Paul Quinterio. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen to this presentation. I cannot think of anything I could say in the next hour that will be of greater value to you and your loved ones than what I cover here. I am confident that most people who watch it will experience a significant shift in thinking. I did. As I discovered over a period of months the facts and information you are about to receive, I not only had a progressive shift in my thinking, but I became more and more outraged at what I learned. From that outrage, a passion of hope and personal direction was born that in part has led to the development of what you are about to see and hear. Within this presentation, you will hear a profound statement made to an assembly of thousands of college students in 1979 by the former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson. Today, 27 years later, the chilling consequences of his words surround us and cannot be disputed. The evidence is irrefutable. The trends identified in this presentation affect everyone. There are none bigger. Their significance overarches and undergirds every aspect of our lives. Their importance should be viewed as if the very physical and mental health of your body was at risk, for they are. It is my hope that the information in this presentation will not only cause critical shifts in thinking, but also positive responses that will benefit people's lives. Let's begin with the food industry. Seen here is a good portion of the standard American diet, a diet high in saturated and hydrogenated fats consisting of a lot of red meat, fried foods, soft drinks, food additives, refined carbohydrates, processed foods, and junk foods. If you're going to list the factors that increase the risk of heart disease, cancer, stroke, and just about any other chronic illness, the standard American diet has them all. One best-selling author made these comments. More people have heart disease than ever before. More people get cancer than ever before. More people have diabetes than ever before. More people suffer from depression, stress, and anxiety than ever before. More kids have attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity than ever before. More men suffer from prostate problems than ever before and at a much younger age. More people have multiple sclerosis, lupus, muscular dystrophy, asthma, migraine headaches, joint, neck, and back pain than ever before. More people have chronic fatigue than ever before. More people have insomnia than ever before. More people have acid reflux, ulcers, and stomach problems than ever before. More people suffer from allergies, arthritis, constipation, and fibromyalgia than ever before. More men and women suffer from sexual dysfunction and infertility than ever before. More people get colds and flu than ever before, yet surprisingly enough, more people are taking drugs than ever before, and more people are taking more drugs than ever before. There are more people going to visit doctors than ever before. There are more people getting diagnostic testing such as blood tests and x-rays than ever before. There are more surgeries being performed than ever before. So what does this tell us? It tells us that standard medical science is failing. More people are getting medical treatment, taking more drugs, having more diagnostic testing, and having more surgeries than ever before in history. Yet more people are getting sick than ever before in history. And because of unprecedented and rising healthcare costs, which I call sickness care, an illness can have devastating financial consequences, like bankruptcy. And this is stunning. Nearly half of all Americans who file for bankruptcy do so because of medical expenses, according to a study released jointly by researchers at Harvard Law School and Harvard Medical School. Surprisingly, most of those bankrupt by illness had health insurance. In many cases, illnesses force breadwinners to take time off from work, losing income and job-based health insurance precisely when families needed it most. This brings us now to the wellness industry. The wellness industry concentrates on eliminating disease before it begins. It is proactive. People voluntarily become customers to feel healthier, to reduce the effects of aging, and to avoid becoming customers of the sickness industry. The sickness industry is reactive. It is a crisis industry. It focuses on the treatment of disease after it has established itself in the human body. No one really wants to be a customer. However, the waiting rooms of hospitals and doctors' offices are full of such customers. The industry is massive. Like McDonald's, billions and billions have been served. As one author writes, an ideal scenario coming out of the wellness industry would be never having to take a single drug and never getting sick. You would wake up in the morning full of energy and vitality, content and feeling absolutely great. You go throughout your day with energy, a bounce in your step, a smile on your face. You don't feel stressed, anxious, or depressed. You don't feel tired. You have no headaches or pain in your body. You are not overweight, and you don't get colds or flus or sickness. On the other hand, people who spend most of their lives in the sickness industry, battling lifestyle-related diseases, have no idea how good their bodies are designed to feel. Please continue with me now as we quickly pass by this colorful array of healthy fruits to further shed light on information that will encourage and empower each of us to move further away from the sickness industry by participating more fully in the business of wellness. Jack Benny was one of the great comedians of the 20th century. He built his career around acting the part of a miser, a cheapskate, and someone who played the violin poorly. In 1948, Jack Benny performed a skit that many point to as the funniest moment in radio history. In the skit, Benny is held up at gunpoint by a robber. The robber demands your money or your life. Benny pauses. The radio studio audience breaks out into laughter that lasts over 30 seconds. Frustrated, the robber demands again, your money or your life. The tightwad Benny finally answers the robber, I'm thinking it over. Yet we laugh at that as we recognize how ridiculous that kind of thinking is. Yet I've observed that many of us choose the money over our lives. And we focus on what money can buy, like a big home, a nice car, perhaps a boat, and even for some a jet plane. But what is more important than our health or the health of our loved ones? What are we doing to invest in our health? What good is our money if we're dead? And did you know that without an active investment in one's health, the average person will die 10 to 20 years prematurely? Consider these facts. There are 300 million Americans in a world of 6.5 billion people. Do the math and you'll discover that the United States makes up less than 5% of the world's population while producing 1/3 of the planet's wealth. And Americans consume over 50% of all the drugs manufactured in the world. The United States will also spend approximately $2 trillion this year in healthcare costs. Folks, that is more money spent on what I call sickness care than the gross national product of every country individually in the world, except for two besides the United States. In other words, the United States will spend more money on sickness care than what Great Britain produces in wealth, what France produces in wealth, what China and Italy all individually produce in wealth. Americans make up less than 5% of the world's population, consume over 50% of all the drugs manufactured in the world, produces 1/3 of the world's wealth, spends more money on health care than what every country in the world produces in wealth, except for Japan and Germany. So Americans must be the healthiest people in the world. Unfortunately, not even close. In fact, according to a CIA website, people in 47 other countries live longer than Americans. What follows are those 47 countries in order of longest to shortest lifespans. I am going to let this run so you can see the names of each of the countries whose citizens live longer on average than we do in the United States. Also, according to the CIA, the infant mortality rate in America is higher than 42 other countries. So I ask the question again, what is more important than your health and the health of your loved ones? When I'm presenting in public, I ask the question, what does the law of the harvest mean? The answer usually comes quickly. You reap what you sow. The origin to the law of the harvest is obviously farming. However, this law can apply to every aspect of our lives. One application is retirement. Most people work 40 years so that they can retire at age 65. The retirement industry is huge. Today, people have multiple options and retirement products to choose from. For example, there are mutual funds, annuities, stocks, bonds, 401k, IRAs, gold, silver, certain life insurance products, and real estate, to name some. Investing for retirement is a good thing. However, according to a study by the Social Security Administration and the Hartford Insurance Company, more than one-third of us, 36% of us, will be dead by the time we reach 65. And for those of us who reach 65, the quality of our health may largely be determined by how well we've invested in it. Our lives from this point forward perhaps can best be described in the first line of Charles Dickens' book, Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. These two pictures speak volumes. Yes, investing for retirement is a good thing. However, many of us are putting first things second and second things first. We spend 40 years sowing for a retirement that we will never reap if we are dead or so sick that we wish we were dead. Dr. Alan Coolidge, an orthopedic surgeon and director of the Central Utah Clinic's Wellness Clinic, said in an article printed on the front page of the Daily Herald, July 17, 2006, quote, "The absolute best financial investment one can make is in their health." On January 7, 2006, in the LDS section of the Desert News, there was an article on ways to combat lifestyle-related diseases. Throughout the article, nationally recognized health researcher Steve Aldana is quoted. Here are some of what he had to say. Without a healthful diet and exercise, the average person will die 10 to 20 years prematurely. Type 2 diabetes, for example, is avoidable 91% of the time. The leading cause of death in the United States, heart disease, 82% of the time, is avoidable. Folks, we are doing it to ourselves. Lifestyle diseases are self-inflicted. If you would like to read the entire Desert News article, please click here. This presentation has now stopped to allow you to do that. When you are ready to proceed, click here. So let's talk now about what we can do to better take care of our bodies. First, we need to understand that there are two main reasons people get sick. We either catch an illness or we develop one. For example, how would you feel if you were sitting in a crowded movie theater with your family and learned that the person sitting directly behind you has the flu? Would that concern you? Probably. Your loved ones and you have now been exposed to a virus and could get sick. But what if instead of the flu, you learn that the person sitting behind you has cancer, or heart disease, or diabetes, or arthritis, or heartburn, or fibromyalgia, or a headache? Would you still be worried about your family's health? Of course not. You don't catch cancer, you don't catch heart disease, you don't catch diabetes, you don't catch arthritis, you don't catch fibromyalgia, and you don't catch headaches. These illnesses, along with many others, are developed and are often self-inflicted. You don't catch them. It's not a germ, it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria. However, we are all exposed to bacteria and viruses on a daily basis. The question is not whether you will pick up a germ. The real question is, why do some people succumb to the germ and get sick, and other people do not? The answer has to do with our immune system. When we are exposed to germs like a virus or bacteria and our immune system is weak, we get sick. So what causes our immune system to become weak, and why do we get sick? Virtually every disease has been linked to nutritional deficiencies. The research is conclusive that when nutritional deficiencies are addressed, many diseases vanish. This is because, among other things, without proper nutrition, our bodies fall more quickly to the destruction of free radical damage. It is estimated that 80 to 90% of the diseases of mankind are due to free radical damage. Like tiny but powerful bullets, highly charged free radical particles rip into the cell membranes, literally punching holes in it. It has been estimated that there are 100,000 free radical hits per day directly on each cell. Let's slow things down a bit and take a closer look. Cumulative free radical damage contributes to all sorts of organ and tissue-specific diseases, including allergies, Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, arterial sclerosis, cancer, cataracts, infection, macular degeneration, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson's disease. In fact, researchers now agree that most common ailments, including virtually all chronic degenerative diseases, are either caused directly by or closely associated with free radical damage. It is the nutrients from our food, particularly the antioxidants, that protect us from free radical damage. However, the standard American diet is a free radical fiasco just waiting to happen. It's liberally laced with high-fat, processed, preserved, pesticide-laden, chemically treated foods. It's chock full of known free radical formers such as meat, butter, margarine, sugar, white flour, and alcohol. It emphasizes frying, browning, and other cooking methods that exponentially drive up the free radical count. Most significant of all, it's dangerously deficient in antioxidant-rich free radical-fighting fruits and vegetables. Antioxidants, as you're about to see illustrated here, protects us from free radical damage. Without such protection, the moment we are born, our lives would be measured in minutes rather than decades. The goal of a nutritional supplement program should be one that strengthens your immune system, protects your cells from free radical damage, and nourishes all 10 of your bodily systems. It's that simple. In my products presentation, I talk about the most potent antioxidant beverage ever formulated. The combination of ingredients in this drink has proven so effective that Dr. Norman Shealy, MD, neurosurgeon, PhD, who has taught at several universities including Harvard, holder of 10 patents and author of 300 articles and 23 books, said, and I quote, "After years of examining every kind of functional food and beverage and hundreds of vitamins and herbal supplements, I have finally found a product that will actually make a significant improvement in oxidative damage. Routinely, I'm approached by companies promoting their new super-duper antioxidant, etc. products, and being open-minded, all I ask is that they prove its effectiveness. Up until now, I have never seen evidence that any food supplement could measurably improve free radical damage. This is the first and only example of a food supplement I have found to have a significant impact on cellular membrane integrity." Unquote. And so what is the evidence? What evidence did Dr. Shealy see that convinced him that this product will actually make a significant improvement in oxidative damage? The evidence is this. As free radicals do their damage in the body, there are certain chemical byproducts produced. These chemical byproducts can be detected and measured in the urine in a matter of minutes. The test that performs this measurement is called the oxidative test. Here is the summation of the test results for this remarkable antioxidant beverage. By adding just 2 daily 1-ounce servings of this product, the average reduction of free radical cell damage among all participants in the study was an amazing 43%. Folks, this is huge. In my products presentation, I cover in detail the parameters of this study. The oxidative test is a simple, non-invasive urine test that can now be performed in the privacy of your own home. In studies at a major university, it was determined that this new urine test is 50 times more sensitive than the blood test measuring for the same chemical byproducts. In comparing the benefits of the oxidative test with the benefits of the Pharmanex Nu Skin Scanner, I like this analogy. If you are a general fighting a battle, what information is more important? How many troops are on the field, or how successful those troops perform in battle? The remarkable thing about the oxidative test is that it provides battlefield results. It measures the damage that is actually happening to the cell membrane in real time. This allows you to measure the true effectiveness of the supplements you are taking. The Nu Skin Scanner, however, only measures a certain antioxidant level in your skin. It may tell you the number of soldiers in uniform, but as to their effectiveness in battle, it tells you nothing. I am so excited about the extraordinary results of this new antioxidant drink that I have developed a separate presentation on a separate website just for it. In my products presentation, I also talk about an oil that is perhaps the most powerful natural immune booster in the world. This oil naturally contains the highest known levels of alkylglycerols on the planet. Your bone marrow, which is the heart of your immune system, is loaded with alkylglycerols, and they are the source of the white blood cells your body depends on to fight off viruses, bacteria, and other invaders. In fact, alkylglycerols, also known as AKGs, are as important to the production of white blood cells in the bone marrow as iron is to the production of red blood cells. And did you know that roughly 1% of human breast milk is AKG? It is an essential part of the developing immune system of the infant and why breastfed babies tend to live longer, healthier lives. Researchers have discovered that this oil provides 40 times more AKG than mother's milk. 40 times! Folks, people who are serious about investing in their health by strengthening their immune system should consume this oil daily. And that is not all this oil does. This oil contains other natural components that have shown to play a major role in preventing arteriosclerosis, thereby preventing stroke and heart attack. This oil has been found effective in lowering cholesterol and blood pressure. In fact, the bottom line is the more oil you consume, the lower your blood pressure, according to Dr. Stephen Pratt, MD. This oil has demonstrated anti-inflammatory properties, which makes it useful to arthritis sufferers. It also thins the blood, slightly inhibiting clotting. The miraculous oil provides effects equal to taking 1 aspirin a day, but unlike aspirin, there is no danger of hemorrhaging to death. I know that the chances of that happening are slim, but did you know that over 2,000 people last year died from taking aspirin? On June 30th, 1906, President Theodore Roosevelt signed into law the Willie Act. 100 years later, to the day, on June 30th, 2006, a celebration was held at the Willie Federal Building in Maryland to commemorate the event. Michael Levitt, Secretary of Health and Human Services, presided and spoke at the commemoration. The reason the Willie Act is so historic is that it is also known as the Food and Drugs Act that led to the creation of the FDA. Today, the Food and Drug Administration oversees items accounting for 25 cents of every dollar spent by consumers. And what are those items? They are the foods we eat and the drugs we take. The FDA's motto is protecting and promoting public health. So how well are they doing at that, considering there are 47 countries where the people live longer than we do in America? Let's take a look. Ezra Taft Benson served as the Secretary of Agriculture during the Eisenhower administration from 1952 until 1960. He was also a spiritual leader to the LDS people. On March 4, 1979, he addressed thousands of students at Brigham Young University. Listen now to a short excerpt from that talk.
To a great extent, we are physically what we eat. What needs additional emphasis are the positive aspects. The need for vegetables, fruits, and grain, particularly wheat. In most cases, the closer these can be eaten in their natural state, without over-refinement and processing, the healthier we will be. To a significant degree, we are an overfed and undernourished nation who are digging an early grave with our teeth and are lacking the energy that could be ours by our indulgence in junk foods.
Folks, these words of Ezra Taft Benson were spoken over 27 years ago. What do you think has happened since then? Let's take a closer look. In 1979, when Ezra Taft Benson addressed the BYU students, approximately 15% of adult Americans were obese. By 2003, that number more than doubled to approximately 33%. A sobering 1/3 of the adults in America are obese. Adults who were both overweight and obese went from approximately 48% in 1979 to approximately 66% by 2003, a 38% increase. This is not just an American problem. In a historical first, there are now as many overnourished people as undernourished around the world. Americans enjoy one of the most luxurious lifestyles on earth. Our food is plentiful, our work is automated, our leisure is effortless, and it's killing us. The recipe for obesity is this. Take technology, cars, washing machines, elevators, that reduces physical exertion. Increase calorie consumption of highly processed food. Add television and video games. Stir in the intense marketing of candy and fast food to the point where the average child in the United States will watch nearly 10 30,000 commercials touting food or beverages a year. And you have the makings of an epidemic. Obesity is not just a cosmetic problem, it is a medical problem. 2 out of 3 Americans are trapped within their own prison of being malnourished and overweight at the same time. They are experiencing a famine of nutrients within a profusion of calories. Many are overweight to a point where they are hopeless and have no idea where to turn for help. Being overweight is associated with over 400,000 deaths a year and an increased risk of heart disease, strokes, type 2 diabetes, inflammatory diseases, hypertension, aging, and colon, breast, and endometrial cancers. Last year, in 2005, it was reported that being overweight surpassed smoking as the leading cause of preventable death in the United States. So how does all this affect our children and our grandchildren? What kind of legacy have we established for them? Unfortunately, the statistics are chilling. Let's take a look. In the last 20 years, there has been a 400% increase in obese children in the United States. The single biggest problem with our children, they are mimicking their parents. If the adults overeat, the kids are going to overeat. If the parents eat poorly, the children eat poorly. Today, an estimated 17% of children and adolescents ages 2 to 19 years old are overweight, up from 5% in 1980. As children are often unkind to each other, perhaps most poignant to them as they are developing their self-esteem is the psychological pain of those stigmatized by obesity. Unless we make some major changes to the negative trends I have just identified, the legacy of health and fitness we leave to our children may be this. For the first time in history, children's lifespans are predicted to be less than their parents because of inactivity and obesity-related illnesses. As it stands today, about 90% of the money that Americans spend on food is used to buy processed foods. Think about it. If it comes in a box, can, bag, or carton, it's processed. The fact that these foods are so readily available and often of such poor quality has led some, like Associate Professor of Pediatrics at Harvard, David Ludwig, to say that processed foods are actually leading to a toxic environment. Quote, "There's the incessant advertising and marketing of the poorest quality foods imaginable. To address this epidemic, you'd want to make healthful foods widely available, inexpensive and convenient, and unhealthy foods relatively less so. Instead, we've done the opposite." Unquote. Processed foods have indeed been implemented in a host of chronic diseases and health conditions that are currently plaguing the nation. Soil depletion, food processing, and the addition of chemicals into our foods have in a significant way led to the crisis we now face. As a parent, we almost need to be a chemist today to protect our children from unhealthy foods. Yet our kids are priceless. What could be more important than to empower ourselves with the knowledge and skill necessary to safeguard our children's health and self-esteem? There are over 14,000 man-made chemicals added to our American food supply today. The processing of food not only removes important vitamins and minerals, but also the natural taste of whatever is being processed. Since the end of World War II, a vast industry has arisen in the United States to make processed foods palatable. Without this flavor industry, today's fast food industry could not exist. In fact, just open your refrigerator, your freezer, your kitchen cupboards, and look at the labels on your food. You'll find a natural flavor or artificial flavor in just about every list of ingredients. And that is all you will read, because somehow the food industry has persuaded the FDA not to require them to disclose the ingredients of their additives. However, from the book Fast Food Nation by Eric Schlosser, we learn that a typical artificial strawberry flavor like the one found in a Burger King strawberry milkshake contains the following ingredients. Look at all these chemicals that are used in order to create the artificial taste of strawberry. The key word here is chemicals. Listen as I quote what Dr. Janet Hall, nutritionalist and author, has to say. Quote, Food additives are not natural nutrition for humans. Children are suffering the most from food additives because they are exposed to food chemicals from infancy, and human bodies were not meant to be exposed to the degree of chemicals and food additives that we are currently." Unquote. As you read the list of these chemicals, how many of them do you recognize? How many of them can you pronounce? You are looking at just one artificial flavor in just one food item. How many others do we consume in a day or a week or a month? Perhaps we should take notice. Unfortunately, one of the chemicals listed here made the news recently. Let me show you. The chemical is called diacetyl. Do a search, Google it. You'll find lots of sites. Here are just a couple I found. From these two sites, I learned that the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health has linked exposure to diacetyl and butter flavoring to lung disease that sickened nearly 200 workers at popcorn plants and killed at least 3. The disease is called bronchiolitis obliterans. It causes inflammation and obstruction of the small airways in the lung by rapidly thickening and scarring. The irreversible condition is progressive and often fatal without a lung transplant. Let me switch gears briefly to illustrate a point. I have a dear friend with 3 healthy, active, beautiful daughters. Each of them loves cats. However, one of the girls is extremely allergic to them. Another girl is just slightly allergic, and the third girl shows no allergic reaction whatsoever to cats. The girl who is severely allergic cannot even hold a cat in her arms like you see pictured here. If she does, she will quickly break into a rash. Her eyes will then swell shut, along with her throat, cutting off her air supply. Something as seemingly harmless as a kitten can place her in a life and death situation without the proper medical intervention. Yet who could tell just by looking at these girls that any one of them would be allergic to cats? The point I want to make is this. Given the same experience, whether it be with a cat or perhaps with food additives, the outcome can be entirely different from person to person. The old adage, "you are what you eat," is true. Everything we put into our bodies affects not only our physical health, but also our mental well-being. Changes in diet over the past 50 years appear to be an important factor behind a significant rise in mental ill health, according to 2 reports both published in the UK on January 18, 2006. The Mental Health Foundation says scientific studies have clearly linked attention deficit disorder, depression, Alzheimer's disease, and schizophrenia to junk food and the absence of essential fats, vitamins, and minerals in industrialized diets. Folks, it breaks down to simple arithmetic. We subtract from our diet the good stuff while adding the bad stuff. We take away the basic nutritional building blocks of health that our bodies need while adding highly processed destructive foods that strain both our physical and mental well-being. In my products presentation, I cover this more fully. However, I will give one example here as to the possible consequences of a diet lacking in essential fats. It is reported that close to 99% of Americans do not consume enough omega-3 fatty acids, and 20% of us have such low levels of omega-3 fatty acids that they can't even be detected. Folks, the reason these fats are called essential fatty acids is that they are essential to our health and our bodies cannot manufacture them. Each of our 100 billion brain cells links up to 20,000 others, and when essential fats are in short supply, the link-ups become difficult. Our mood, concentration, memory, and intelligence can all suffer. So it's not surprising that essential fats have been proven to help with numerous brain-based afflictions. The particular omega-3 fatty acid perhaps most important to our mental health is DHA, which stands for docosahexaenoic acid. Parents also take note. DHA is essential for the growth and functional development of the brains in infants. Brain development in humans take place primarily in the last trimester in the womb and in the first 12 months of postnatal life. DHA is the predominant structural fatty acid in the gray matter of the brain. The inclusion of plentiful DHA in the diet improves learning ability, whereas deficiencies of DHA are associated with deficits in learning. The turnover of DHA in the brain is very fast. The way we get DHA in our bodies is by putting it into our mouths and swallowing it. Note, none of the foods pictured here on this page contain DHA. On a personal note, I have 4 sons. 13 years ago, one of my boys, while in elementary school, started acting out in class. His mother and I received a call one day to visit with the school psychologist. This we did. The psychologist spoke to us in detail concerning our son's behavior. He said that my boy was hyperactive and diagnosed him as ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. The cause of ADHD, we were told, was because my son's brain chemistry was not quite right. The psychologist requested that we take my son to a medical doctor to prescribe a drug to fix the imbalance in his brain chemistry. Sadly, the questions that were missed at the time and should have been asked are these. Why is his brain chemistry out of balance? And what is causing this imbalance? If these questions were asked, we might have discovered that it was food allergies or excitotoxins such as aspartame or monosodium glutamate or food additives that were to blame. With simple dietary adjustments, my son's brain chemistry may have become balanced. Unfortunately, we trusted the system at the time and led our son down the sadly worn path that so many other parents have followed or are now following with their children. That is, the path to prescription drugs. My son was prescribed and started taking Ritalin, a drug which is a chemical that was supposed to balance out his brain chemistry, which most likely in the first place was thrown out of balance by the chemicals in his foods. The picture you now see on your computer screen illustrates the beginning of a 13-year chemical roller coaster ride my son is still on. It is a journey that has taken him since Ritalin into the peaks and valleys, the trials and errors of over 10 different psychotherapeutic drugs with all of their negative side effects. Aspartame is just one example of a chemical we would do well to avoid. I encourage you to research it. Here are just a few facts. Aspartame is an ingredient of approximately 6,000 consumer foods and beverages sold worldwide. In 1995, FDA Epidemiology Branch Chief Thomas Wilcox reported that aspartame complaints represented 75% of all reports of adverse reaction to substances in the food supply from 1981 to 1995. A total of 92 different symptoms and health conditions were reported by physicians and consumers. As of 2001, Google listed over 80,000 anti-aspartame sites. As parents, we need to protect our children. We need to empower ourselves with the knowledge of what is good nutrition and what can harm them. Then we need to be good examples ourselves by walking the talk. From the book Superfoods, Dr. Stephen Pratt, MD, makes a profound statement, quote, "Each time you sit down to a meal, you're making life and death decisions," unquote. I believe this. I believe this statement is absolutely true. As I read Dr. Pratt's book, I was able to recall experiences in my own life that validated what he wrote. As a boy and as a teenager growing up, I can remember at family barbecues the comments made to me directly or sometimes to others on my behalf, quote, "He is young, he can eat anything," or eat it, it's not going to hurt you, you'll just burn it off," unquote. Unfortunately, I believed those statements for a long time, even after becoming a father myself. However, nothing could be further from the truth. Let me give you just one sobering example by first reading another statement from Dr. Pratt's book. Quote, "The prostate gland does most of its growing between the ages of 13 and 20. If a boy eats lots of saturated fat during those years, the majority, quote, fast food, unquote, span for most Americans, it may increase his chances of developing prostate cancer later in life," unquote. Let me assure you that prostate cancer is not something a teenage boy worries about. In 1972, I turned 16 and obtained my driver's license. Like most boys my age, I now had the freedom to spend a lot of time at McDonald's and Burger King. We had an open lunch policy at my high school which allowed me to go off campus every day for lunch. If you ever saw the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, then you've seen my high school. John Hughes, who wrote and directed that movie, graduated from my high school 6 years before I did. In any event, almost every day for 2 years, I ate my fat-saturated lunch at a fast food joint and then hurried back to school in time for my next class. I didn't want to be late or I might get detention. John Hughes also directed the 1985 movie Breakfast Club. So if you saw that movie, you know my high school detentions were not fun. It took about 10 more years, however, before I even became aware of prostate problems in men. Then one day I was told my grandfather had prostate cancer. He was almost 80 years old. A generation later, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. At the time, he too was almost 80 years old. So up until about 2 years ago, that was my experience. My understanding was old men get prostate cancer. Boy, was I wrong, and yet boy, was I right. About 2 years ago, my thinking suddenly changed when a coworker unexpectedly announced he had prostate cancer. He was only in his early 50s. The cancer was discovered during a routine physical. He had had no symptoms. He was operated on and his prostate was removed. Later that same year, I also learned one of my neighbors had had prostate cancer and had been operated on. He was in his early 40s. Then on a trip to Denver this year, I met a man also in his 40s who was recovering from a prostate cancer operation. In addition, I learned from my sister this year that a friend of hers, who I also knew, was dying from cancer that had started in the prostate. Finally, in early January of this year, I learned of a man I had known as a boy in Chicago over 30 years ago who was dying of cancer. A few weeks later, I attended his funeral. The words and photo you're about to see came from Ethan Barborca's obituary. These words were also read during his funeral service. Ethan Stark Barborca, age 44, passed from this life on Friday, January 20th, 2006. He died peacefully in the arms of his loving wife after a long and valiant battle with prostate cancer. It was Ethan's desire to send an enthusiastic message to all men aged 30 and over. Quote, "Make friends with your urologist and please go get your darn PSA checked." Unquote. I was told that Ethan developed prostate cancer while he was in his 30s. 30s! How many men in their 30s are worried about prostate cancer? Not many, but now they need to be. Things have changed. Fast food restaurants did not exist when my grandfather and father were teenage boys while their prostates were growing. Does it really matter what we eat when we're young? You're dead right it does. I was sad for the passing of Ethan Barborca and for the loved ones and friends he left behind. This presentation, in part, is to help keep alive Ethan's enthusiastic message of warning to all men aged 30 and over to please get their PSA checked. In addition, there are things you can do today to invest in the health of your prostate. This I cover in my products presentation. Dr. Marshall Angell, MD, is the former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, which is considered the most prestigious medical journal in the world. She was the first woman to serve in this prominent position. She is now a senior lecturer at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Angell has written a best-selling book titled The Truth About the Drug Companies. She reports in her book that year after year for over 2 decades, the drug industry has been far and away the most profitable in the United States. She writes in her book, "The most startling fact about 2002 is that the combined profits for the 10 drug companies in the Fortune 500 were more than the profits for all the other 490 businesses put together." With all that money being spent on medication in the United States, and given the fact that there are 47 countries where the people live longer than we do, what does that tell us about the dangers of these drugs? What follows is shocking. On November 18, 2004, David Graham, MD, Associate Director for Science in the FDA Office of Drug Safety and a 20-year veteran of the agency, testified before the Senate Finance Committee. Here are just 2 excerpts from his testimony. "We estimate 100,000 people had heart attacks due to Vioxx, with 30,000 to 40,000 dying." He also added, "I emphasize to the committee that this is an extremely conservative estimate. Folks, on September 11, 2001, we lost 3,000 Americans and were outraged. Vioxx has killed at least 10 times that many Americans. Where is the outrage?" Dr. Graham is no outside critic, but is a top FDA employee who has worked at the agency for 2 decades. I recommend you read Dr. Graham's testimony before the Senate committee. It is stunning. I have included it in a PDF document. I have also included another PDF document you can access by clicking here. It contains a jaw-dropping interview with Dr. Graham on August 30th, 2005. To continue with this presentation, click here. This cartoon kind of unfortunately sums it up. The doctor says to the patient, "Take 2 of these and call me if you survive until morning." The doctor's holding a paper that reads Celebrex, Vioxx, and Aleve increase heart attack risk. Have you ever seen a commercial on TV for Viagra? I think we all have at one time or another. Here are some interesting facts about Viagra you will never see advertised. Viagra became available in March 1998, and after only 13 months on the market, there were 1,473 major drug reactions reported to the FDA. And what were those reactions? 161 cardiac arrhythmias, 517 heart attacks. Yes, I would say a heart attack is a major reaction. 119 strokes. A stroke definitely qualifies as a major reaction. And the ultimate major drug reaction of them all? Death. There were 522 deaths reported to the FDA. Folks, these numbers may be just the tip of the iceberg, because experts estimate that about only 1 to 5% of all serious medication reactions are reported to the FDA. Do the math and you'll realize that Viagra kills a lot of people. Keep in mind that all drugs are chemicals, all drugs have negative side effects, and all drugs can cause death. The information I just presented came from the book Overdose, The Case Against the Drug Companies by Dr. J.S. Cohen, MD. In my products presentation, I discuss a potent, natural alternative to Viagra that also works for women and has been tested for over 20 years with no negative side effects. Earlier in this presentation, I reported that 2 out of 3 Americans are overweight and malnourished at the same time. Many of these Americans are malnourished to the point where they live with constant headaches, body pain, stomach distress, heartburn, fatigue, arthritis, and hundreds of other ailments, sicknesses often wrongly accepted as symptoms of advancing age. Pharmaceutical companies sell them billions of dollars worth of drugs each year that treat only their symptoms while ignoring their cause. And did you know that properly prescribed medicine in American hospitals kill 106,000 people each year, making prescription drugs just in hospitals alone the 4th leading cause of death in the country? And that's not even counting the Americans who die from prescription and non-prescription drugs outside hospitals, and those who die from faulty prescriptions or incorrect prescriptions. When I'm presenting in public, I ask the question, what is the #1 selling drug in the world? The answer I seem to get most often is Viagra. However, the correct answer is Lipitor. Pfizer's cholesterol medicine Lipitor is currently the world's top-selling medicine with annual sales of $10 billion. That is huge. To put it in perspective, that amount is 30 times what Nature's Sunshine sales were in 2004 and 119 times what Synergy Worldwide sales were in 2004. This is just one product that does one thing, that is to lower cholesterol, and it comes with numerous side effects. Lipitor is a statin drug. Here are some common statin symptoms: headache, dizziness, heartburn, constipation, nausea, skin rash, abdominal pain or discomfort, pain or tenderness around the eyes, hoarseness, runny or stuffy nose. And also a rare but more serious condition can develop called rhabdomyolysis, which could result in kidney failure or death. In my products presentation, I discuss a natural alternative to Lipitor that in clinical studies has shown a 24% decrease in plasma cholesterol levels within hours of oral administration without any side effects. It's amazing to me how much revenue is generated from drugs with such negative side effects as Lipitor. Yet when you look at the huge machinery the drug companies have in place to get us to buy their products, one understands why. Just look at the barrage of TV commercials and print advertising we are exposed to by the drug companies. Did you know that direct-to-consumer drug ads are illegal in every developed country in the world except the United States and New Zealand? There's obviously a good reason for that. Also, here's another telling fact. In 2001, the drug industry employed approximately 88,000 sales representatives to visit doctors in their offices and hospitals to promote their products. That is roughly one representative for every 6 practicing physicians. Imagine you are driving your car when suddenly the red light flashes on. The brightness of it bothers you. It's annoying. So to correct the situation, you simply take the light bulb out. You stop the symptom. The oil light is no longer illuminated, but you have not addressed the cause. The reason that the light went on is still there. You may drive the car for a few weeks before it seizes up on you, or you may only have a few hours or even minutes. It happened to me. I was driving on the interstate and had just traveled several hundred miles when my oil light came on. I was only 20 miles from home and thought, I can make it okay. 5 miles later, I blew a rod and was stuck on the side of the road. It cost me over $1,800 to replace the engine. Your body is similar. If you have a headache or a back pain, it's like a warning light to you. You shouldn't just think, let me eliminate the pain of the headache, or let me reduce the pain of the back so I can go about my daily routine. I'll just take a couple of aspirin, or better yet, a couple of prescription pain pills. What you should ask yourself, however, is why am I in pain? What is the cause of my pain? When you do this, you are addressing the problem itself and not just treating the symptoms. By simply treating the symptom of pain, you allow the problem to develop. And like your car, your body may function for a period of time before it seizes up on you. Or in the case of chest pain, you may have only a few hours, perhaps even minutes before that happens. On a side note, I have observed that many people take better care of their cars than they do their own bodies. Yet we may have many cars in our lifetime, but we get only one body. We have now come full circle, and in light of what we have learned, there are several things that need to be changed on this page. First, I quote again from Dr. David Graham of the FDA, quote, "As currently configured, the FDA is not able to adequately protect the American public," unquote. I agree, and I think the evidence to support that statement is overwhelming. So let's move the FDA off the page. I now quote one sentence from Paul Zhang Pilsner's book, The Wellness Revolution, published in 2002, quote, "Although there was obviously no direct conspiracy between the $1 trillion food industry, which causes most of the problems, and the $1.5 trillion medical industry that treats just enough of the symptoms to get the target consumer back to work and consumption, the economic effect was the same as if these two industries were conspiring against the American consumer in the most sinister fashion," unquote. As surely as night follows day, if we want to avoid becoming customers of the sickness industry, we must avoid the standard American diet. It's that simple. In fact, it's simple math. Subtract the bad stuff and add the good stuff. So the second thing we need to do to this page is to have a change of menu. Let's get rid of the bad food seen here and replace it with good food. Now that's better. However, I need to point something out. It has been said that you would need to eat up to 5 times the amount of food your grandparents did just to receive the same nutritional value. That may well be true. I read an article recently titled, "Mineral Depletion of the Soil: Why a Healthy Diet Isn't So Healthy Anymore." The article said that hundreds of years of farming have depleted the soil of the minerals we need in our food, and that the fruits, vegetables, and cereals which form the bulk of our diet have been found to be deficient in a range of minerals and trace elements compared to those 50 years ago. I also read it is estimated that the average U.S. farm is 85% depleted of minerals and trace elements as compared to 100 years ago. The depletion of minerals in our soil, along with the processing of our foods, is why so many scientists, doctors, and nutritional experts agree that it is not just okay to supplement one's diet with vitamins, minerals, and essential fats, but it is imperative to do so if you want to restore a critical balance in your body that is most likely out of whack. So the third thing we need to do on this page is to get rid of the drugs and replace them with nutritional supplements. Please note, however, if you are using prescription drugs and want to get off of them, you need to do so under the supervision of your physician. Folks, drugs are not the answer to good health. Diseases are not caused by a lack of drugs. For example, You do not have a headache because you have an aspirin deficiency in your body. In addition, drugs are toxins. Toxins are poisons. If you don't believe that, there's a simple test to prove it. Just take 25 pills of whatever drug you have right now and see what happens. You'll probably die. On the other hand, if you eat 25 grapes or 25 apples, you may feel full, but you're not going to die. Here is another disturbing trend that affects all of us. From the year 2000 to 2006, health insurance premiums for family coverage have risen 84%, while at the same time workers' wages have increased only 20%. This growing disparity between premiums and wages is frightening. No wonder half of all Americans who file for bankruptcy do so because of medical expenses. In 2006, premiums reached an average of $11,480 annually for family coverage. That equals $956 per month. The sad thing is that the $956 per month premium is not making anyone any healthier. In reality, it's not health insurance, it's sickness insurance. Not 1 cent goes to invest in a person's health. Yes, some policies have what is called preventive care coverage. However, preventive care coverage does not make you any healthier. It typically provides for such things as an annual physical exam, mammograms, pap smears, PSA tests, and gynecological exams. It basically provides you a status report of your current health condition. It is a report card. It does not make you any healthier. Yes, if some disease or problem is discovered like cancer, you definitely want to find it sooner than later. Finding it sooner may save your life and prevent less of your body from being cut away. However, true preventive health care comes when one invests in the health of the body so one never gets cancer in the first place. I personally have a license to sell health insurance in the state of Utah. It has been my observation that there is really only one reason why people buy health insurance, that reason being fear. Without insurance coverage, an accident or catastrophic illness could easily bankrupt all but the ultra-wealthy. Wouldn't it be nice to take some of that $956 per month and not give it to the insurance company? My advice to most people is to investigate high-deductible health plans. Why spend thousands in health insurance when you only need coverage in case of serious illness or injury? You could save nearly 50% on monthly health plan premiums. Take the money you save and spend it on a real investment in your health, like healthier foods, supplements, a class on nutrition, and a health club membership. Then use it. Become healthier and put the statistics in your favor, not to become a customer of the sickness industry. This is the end of this presentation. Thank you for your time. I hope it's been well worth it for you. Let me finish with these thoughts. In the sickness industry, the doctor has been taught to be interested not in health, but in disease. In the wellness industry, you and I have been taught that health is the cure for disease. Wisdom is the correct application of knowledge. Let us choose wisely. For if we choose not to participate as a customer in the wellness industry, we will almost certainly be a customer in the sickness industry.